What if I told you that there's a blue liquid that can sharpen your brain, boost your energy, and potentially even extend your health span? Sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie, right? Well, it's real, and it's called Methylene Blue. Ever since RFK Jr. was seen with this substance, it's trended across the internet. Is it truly a miracle molecule, or is there more to the story? Hi, I'm Nick Urban, founder of Outliyr.com, where I get to help high achievers like you optimize your health and performance through bioharmony. Let's get started. Now, you may be wondering, what is methylene blue? To put it simply, methylene blue is the first ever fully synthetic pharmaceutical drug created back in 1876 by a German chemist. It later found a wide variety of applications, ranging from use as a textile dye to a stain used in laboratories, eventually as a medicine to treat malaria, and perhaps now most infamously as fish tank cleaner. A previous podcast guest of mine, Dr. John Laurence, mentioned that Paul Ehrlich coined the term magic bullet in reference to methylene blue because it was able to effectively kill malaria without harming human cells. Soldiers during World War I were required to take methylene blue. One of the most common side effects of methylene blue is that it causes your pee to turn blue, which led General Eisenhower to comment that our troops are so patriotic they even pee blue. Methylene blue also has some valuable uses in the health and medical communities. First, it's an electron cycler, which in a phase of the energy generation process called the electron transport chain means that it can either donate or accept electrons depending on the dosage. It has a biphasic dose response curve. In low doses, methylene blue acts as an antioxidant and exhibits protective effects. When you increase the dosage past a certain threshold, then it becomes a pro-oxidative therapy. Some people in the alternative health world are talking about the prevalence of not oxidative stress, but reductive stress. If you go too far the other way, too many antioxidants, high-dose methylene blue can help counter that. The most important ways that methylene blue works is to increase the efficiency of the energy generation process by increasing the amount of cellular ATP energy created, while also reducing the cellular exhaust, if you will, the reactive oxygen species, and the other natural but harmful byproducts that can get out of control and are hallmarks of virtually every disease. I'm down here in Baja where the UV index is very high, and that can cause skin damage and DNA damage and things like that are terrible for longevity. Methylene blue has powerful synergistic effects with light. It's photoprotective, meaning it helps shield skin from UV damage. And that's why it's becoming increasingly commonly used in skincare formulations. But it also combines nicely with other substances such as plant pigments, polyphenols, and proanthocyanins and things like berries, shilajit, chlorella, and even certain metals like silver and gold. So the way I use methylene blue down here is about 30 to 60 minutes before I go out into the sun, so that I capture a little more of the energy and buffer some of the damage of sun exposure. Since certain organs and systems in the body, such as the brain, the eyes, the heart, the genitals, the skin, are rich in energy-producing mitochondria, and methylene blue helps protect those mitochondria, people often notice that function of those organs or pathology tends to improve. It's also a potent antimicrobial across a wide variety of viruses, bacteria, and other pathogens. In fact, it was a fundamental component of my 2020 protocol that helped me get over a certain illness that was passing around in 24 hours. It has a ton of other impacts throughout the body, such as inhibiting nitric oxide, but there's 3 types of nitric oxide, and it inhibits the one that you do not want high levels of, and that is inducible nitric oxide. It's the same one that is elevated by things that are typically considered unhealthy, such as xenoestrogens, endocrine disrupting chemicals, radiation. So in this case, nitric oxide inhibition is not a bad thing. It also has impacts on neurotransmitters such as serotonin, especially when in high dosages, and dopamine. Let's chat about dosage and how to use it. It's not for everyone, so stick around to the end of the video where I'll discuss who should not use methylene blue. But the first thing you'll notice is that you can get it as a liquid, you can get it as a transdermal cream to apply to your skin, you can get troches that go and dissolve in your mouth. Capsules and powders are rare, at least to find high purity versions, but you can find those. If you're a medical professional, you may use IV methylene blue, but because it's very orally bioavailable and it absorbs well when taken through the mouth, there's not much reason for your average person to look into IV methylene blue. Your source of methylene blue is critical. There are tons of low quality products, and you can get low quality products for very, very cheap. Those are the ones that are commonly used as fish tank cleaners and in industrial applications, but those are not safe at all for human consumption. Definitely avoid those. Make sure that any product you buy is pharmaceutical grade methylene blue. When you're looking at products, you'll also want to notice the dilution of them. More on that in a minute, but there's not necessarily a standardization of what you're going to be getting in each drop of the liquid, assuming you're getting a liquid, as most products are liquids currently. As I already mentioned, the dosage range varies widely from about 0.5 milligrams all the way up to 4 milligrams per kilogram of body weight. So if you're 50 kilograms, that's 200 milligrams. If you're 100 kilograms, that's 400 milligrams. This is one area where more really is not better. The effects are different with low dose versus high dosage, but in general, starting low is the way to go. Unfortunately, with the liquids, dosing isn't quite as straightforward as it could be. You'll want to look at the product you have and figure out the details it says in the bottle. For example, this one says it's 300 milligrams in the bottle, 10 milligrams per milliliter, and there are 30 milliliters. Doesn't say anything about drops, and this is a dropper bottle, so you'll have to do a little bit of math to figure it out. Since this product contains 10 milligrams per milliliter, that's fairly standard, but not always. That means we're working with a 1% solution of methylene blue, and unfortunately the number of drops that's going to be will depend on the viscosity of the liquid and the dropper itself. The standard assumption though is that there are 20 drops in 1 milliliter. So if 1 milliliter contains 10 milligrams and there are 20 drops per milliliter, that would put this at about half of a milligram per drop. So for a 1 milligram dose, that would be 2 drops of this. Personally, I more often use a lower dose of methylene blue, about 10 to 20 milligrams, but sometimes I'll go higher dose and have about 100 milligrams, and I weigh about 95 kilograms. You'll likely notice the biggest effects if your body is under a high oxidative load, you're battling something, your body isn't creating energy as efficiently. When I go the really high dose, I experience the most common side effect of methylene blue, and that is blue urine. And the higher the dosage I use, the longer that effect lasts, and it often lasts multiple days. You'll also notice when you use methylene blue that you do not want to spill it, because it stains. As you might expect from a dye used as a stain in labs, this stuff, once it gets into something, it does not really come out. The only real way to get it out is to either consume or to apply ascorbic acid. Vitamin C, that's the most effective, and it works pretty well, but it's much easier just to not spill it in general. And by the way, when you add vitamin C to it, it becomes a colorless, reduced form called leukomethylene blue. Now, even though the body can convert the form back and forth, I personally would just stick to normal methylene blue. If you take very large doses, some people report experiencing nausea or dizziness, but that's pretty rare. There are 2 significant considerations, and that is for those taking SSRIs and MAOIs, for people using monoamine oxidase inhibitors, or people who are artificially boosting serotonin. That is an area that I would proceed with caution. There was a warning put out on that, but as Dr. John Laurence mentioned, that combination is dangerous because it can cause a serious condition known as serotonin syndrome. It can be fatal, so if you're taking those, I would avoid it. Although Dr. John Laurence said that there are very few case studies even of people getting serotonin syndrome from methylene blue. The main cases I saw in the literature or people using high-dose IV methylene blue who were also getting I think it was thyroid surgery. So if that's you, definitely avoid it. But either way, it's smart to consult your healthcare professional before adding in methylene blue. And in my opinion, primarily because of the next risk. And that is if you have G6PD deficiency. You can tell that from genetic reports. It's very, very rare. Some people do have it, and methylene blue can be fatal in that case. So it's good to know. Probably not going to apply to you, but just in case, consult with your medical provider. Although methylene blue is considered an essential medicine by the World Health Organization, is it a magic bullet? I'm not so sure it's a magic bullet. When used responsibly, it can have miraculous benefits because when you increase energy levels in the body, organs that were experiencing a power shortage and weren't able to run at full capacity, all of a sudden can come back online and symptoms can disappear. Since I recorded the first part of this video several weeks ago, there has been a big backlash against methylene blue in pop culture and by certain influencers online, saying the usual, that it's nothing more than a dangerous fish tank cleaner, that it stains organs such as the brain blue, that it's really only for use in the metabolically unhealthy, and that the side effects for most people are going to outweigh any pros, and that natural alternatives such as the phycocyanins in blue-green algae such as spirulina, are nature's perfect replacement for methylene blue. While that last one I agree with, and I personally use spirulina, phycocyanins and methylene blue are not all the same, even though they're both blue dyes/pigments. The claim that it's only for the metabolically unhealthy is also a bit misguided because according to, I think it's 2022 research, between 90 and 95% of Americans are metabolically unhealthy. And if you're getting lots of natural light exposure and you are metabolically healthy, methylene blue can still help there too. Now the last one, and the one that sounds the most concerning at first blush, is the concept of it staining organs blue. As I discussed with friend and previous podcast guest, Dr. John Laurence, who's been using and studying this stuff for a very long time, the backstory here is very important. First of all, in those cases, methylene blue is used in very high doses via IV. And that's not at all the same. It doesn't work the same. It doesn't concentrate the same as it does when you're taking it via other forms. Most people watching this will never use methylene blue via IV, and probably not even high dose. Next is the all-important context here. Why is it concentrating in the brain and other organs? And that is because those patients were on the brink of death. Hence, they had autopsies afterward, and they were able to find that the methylene blue was in those organs. The way methylene blue works is that it concentrates in organs that need the support the most. So if you're really struggling in a last-ditch effort, methylene blue could save your life. Not saying it will, no medical claims here, but it's like throwing a Hail Mary. If these individuals were healthy or a little bit unhealthy, they likely wouldn't have had stained organs at all. So really all of those points are straw men to dissuade people from exploring and researching this substance on their own. And the last one is the idea of serotonin syndrome. And since methylene blue is an MAO inhibitor, it can lead to increases in serotonin in the brain, and when combined with other serotonergic substances, cause a dangerous and potentially fatal condition called serotonin syndrome. Of course, do your own research and check with your doctor before considering methylene blue, but in clinical practice, when you talk to the people who've been using it across hundreds or thousands of patients, serotonin syndrome resulting from methylene blue usage in normal to even large doses is very uncommon. And there are also lots of other serotonergic substances, including natural herbs and botanicals and supplements that are very common that are also serotonergic and can lead to serotonin syndrome. Last up, since methylene blue is a redox cycler, we will talk about methylene blue's biologically active cousin. In the reduced form, it's called leucomethylene blue. LMB for short. When you expose leucomethylene blue to oxidizing environments such as oxygen, it naturally converts from leucomethylene blue back to methylene blue. Why does this matter? Because the true antioxidant and often therapeutic benefits ascribed to methylene blue usually come from leucomethylene blue. When you consume methylene blue in the presence of oxygen and other oxidizers, that methylene blue reduces into leucomethylene blue. So now people are taking Methylene Blue instead. And it has some distinct advantages, such as, first and perhaps most appealingly, that it does not stain the same blue color that Methylene Blue does. If you watched my recent video on molecular hydrogen versus Brown's gas, which I'll link in the description of this, you'll also know that molecular hydrogen is another powerful substance, and when Methylene Blue is in the presence of molecular hydrogen or Brown's gas, that enables dynamic redox cycling or switching between methylene blue and Methylene Blue. So a lot of people these days are combining the two. And there's even less research on Methylene Blue, but there is a little bit, including a 2024 study that showed one biomarker of neurological decline dramatically improved from Methylene Blue specifically. It also has neuroprotective potential, and it works by inhibiting the NLRP3 inflammasome and reducing microglial activation. Methylene Blue also directly donates electrons to cytochrome C, which increases energy production and overall energy efficiency in the body. Plus, it probably makes a great addition to any mitochondrial optimization protocol. One of the other benefits is that Methylene Blue specifically bypasses the enzyme reduction step. So it has a lot of potential for those who are G6PD deficient, unlike Methylene Blue. So far, the limited research suggests that just 16 milligrams per day might be enough for neuroprotection, but of course we'll need a lot more research there. I've also been researching, comparing, and trying a bunch of the different Methylene Blue products on the market. So if you want to see what my thoughts are on those, which are the best, which ones I avoid, I'll put a link to that article in the description of this video. Well, there you have it. What are your thoughts on Methylene Blue and Methylene Blue? Is this a supplement of the future? Is it dangerous, overhyped? Drop a comment below and let me know. Until next time, be an outlier.